So welcome everyone. Today is our day 3 of demo on Business Analyst Training program. So far in first two demos, what we covered was the overview of this entire training program, the duration that we are going to take to complete the training, what you can expect or what you can learn out of these trainings, what are the different tools that we are going to learn, what are the different certification paths that are available after taking up this training, how we are going to help you in accomplishing the tasks of this training, and then what will be your career growth as business analyst when you actually start working as a BA. Now today in our day 3 of demo, we will discuss briefly on these three topics. Okay, so that is how the role of a business analyst was created or it actually came into picture. What are some of the roles and responsibilities that a business analyst currently performs? Okay, and then we have a lot of thing going around artificial intelligence. Lot of new tools are coming up. So how AI is going to or is currently impacting what BA or a business analyst is currently working on. Okay, now we'll start with the history of BA first. So the discussion that we are going to have, it is specific to IT industry. Okay, so right throughout the duration of the entire course, we are focusing on how to become a business analyst in the IT industry. Okay, now we all know that technology has been evolving rapidly over last few years. Actually, in the past 30 years or so, if you see, or more than 30 years, technology has been changing rapidly. Okay? So there have been lot of great things that have come up. For example, internet. It has completely changed the way we currently work, not just we as the regular users, but in fact how the businesses work as well. So earlier there was this office setup model where the only way for you to work was is to have an office, as then have as many agents as possible who can go and promote about what is your business model. Now we have lot of internet based websites. You can use Google services or other paid ad services on Facebook to promote your business, to increase your reach. Okay, so now at the comfort of sitting at your home, you have an option of promoting your websites through any of the channels, whether it is Instagram, whether it is YouTube, whether it is Facebook, or even through Google as well. Okay, so there is one such thing, internet, that have completely transformed the way. Then revolution in mobile technologies. Okay? In the earlier days, back in early 2000s, when mobile phones were quite expensive and not everyone could afford it. Now fast forward it to today's time, and you see that mobiles can be found in different ranges, and people can afford it now. Okay, so now with everyone having mobile phone available in their pocket, there are lot of deviation from websites to actually mobile based applications. Okay, now a lot of businesses are trying to provide even further customized experience to the people, that a lot of people may not be opening up their laptops or desktops more often, so they may be spending more time on their mobile phones. So why not have an application that can work effectively on mobile phones? So with these, and then there are few things line up like quantum computing, artificial intelligence. In fact, artificial intelligence is already underway. So there are technology keeps evolving itself. So what's the reason for this technology evolution? Okay, so it is to provide better way of solving the problem. Okay, so whether you call it a better way of solving a problem or a better way of doing a task also. Okay, so you must have heard that there is again a lot of focus on creating robots, so that these robots with artificial intelligence can do some of the regular tasks that human beings are doing, so that human beings can utilize their time into working on something more creative. Now, when technology is providing us a way to solve a problem or to execute a task in a better way, n- now with this intention, when people are going to use a technology, the only time people can use a technology when the technology becomes cheap. Okay, if I give you a software with a subscription cost of 1000 per month, chances are that you may not be interested in it. Okay, but if I give you a software for a relatively lower cost, let's say for free or with a 100 rupee per month cost, chances are that you may subscribe to it or you may opt for it. That what's the big deal? Okay, if I show you the advantages of the application or the technology, and that even with so much of advantages, this is being given to you for almost free, like 50 rupees or 100 rupees per month, then obviously you will get interested in it. Okay, so when the technology keeps evolving so that it becomes cheap, when technology becomes cheap, it leads to mass adoption. That is multiple people using it. When phones were expensive, few people were using it. When phones become cheap, a lot of people started using mobile phones. So when mass adoption happens or when lot of people are using or making use of a technology, you want to ensure that whatever applications you are building, whenever multiple peoples are using, you want to ensure that that whatever applications we are building, they are user friendly. Okay, so what do I mean by user friendly? For example, open up this Google Chrome. Now this Google Chrome browser lets you access things on the internet. Okay, now see this how this Google Chrome UI has been created. We have a search bar at the top. Okay, I can simply use this search bar to directly find out for whatever I want to. Okay, now when I open up Google Chrome, because it's offered by Google, so Google by default gives me a search bar here also, plus some of the frequently used websites. Okay, so now what happens with this is, if I have to search for anything, I can directly start typing over here. Now imagine if this search bar, instead of being at the top, it is somewhere at the bottom or the end of the screen. Okay? So though the search bar is there for me to type and search, but it is not readily available in front of my eye. Okay, I'll have to scroll down, locate it at the end, and then start using it. So that's not an example of a good user interface. Okay, we want to build applications that are as much user friendly as possible. Okay, so that is, you should be taking lesser amount of times to perform any task. If an application is not user friendly, what will happen? You will simply move away from the current application to a competitor application. So that is where That is where, when technology was evolving, people are expecting user friendly applications to be built. So organizations, they started a role for business analyst. Okay, the role of business analyst was not to build the was not to build these applications, but was to actually interact with the clients. Okay, so that is, you talk to clients, you meet with clients, understand their requirements, then document these requirements. Okay, so let's first understand these three topics. Suppose I have a, a restaurant which offers, uh, let's say, pizza, for example. So now I want to set up my own application. So currently the business model that I have is that people will walk into my store, they will place orders, and they will wait for their order to be ready. Now, because of this model, what happens is my client base is restricted. People who can travel only will come to my restaurant. But there are a lot of people who want to still eat pizza, who can afford it as well, but are not placing order because they don't want to travel, or maybe they want to receive order at the comfort of their home. Okay. So that's where you see, I got an idea looking at Zomato and other players in the market, that why don't I create my own application to create awareness among people that such restaurant exists. People can use my application to place order. Okay, once they placed an order, I will make use of, I will have some delivery fleet who can deliver the order to the customer. Okay. So now what will happen? Either I can learn coding on my own and start building the application, or I can find out some IT company that can do this for me. Okay. And then not worry about building the application. Now, when I find some IT company to do this work for me, what can happen is the IT company will give me a business analyst first to work with. Okay, because as a client, what will happen is, I don't know whether you are going to build an application for Android or iOS, or what's the difference between the two. As a client, I don't know if the application should be written in one language or the another. Like, are you going to use Python, Java, or some other programming language to write the code? As a client, I don't know the advantages what cloud will offer over other, because for me the important thing is running my business and not worrying about the changing technology. Okay, so I need to talk to someone with whom I can talk in normal language, not technical language. So that's where the business analyst helps. Okay, so as a business analyst, before getting to work with any of the client, before executing this meeting with client, okay, we try and do two things. That is, understand the client. So suppose if my client is offering pizza, so I, as business analyst, what I will do is, before meeting with my client, I will understand how this food industry operates in general. Within that food industry, what is my client doing? How are they different from the other players in the market? How are they making money actually? So that is what we call as understanding your client. So you learn about the industry, plus you learn about your client as well. Okay, you get basic knowledge on industry plus client. Now when I have this knowledge, and now when I go to client and start having discussion with them, I can actually have a meaningful conversations. Whatever they will be saying about, suppose if the client says raw ingredients, costs, okay, equipments required in baking pizza, I'll be able to understand all those things. Why? Because I have had some knowledge on industry and some knowledge on client. Okay, we don't expect ourselves to become master overnight, but we should have some basic information to get started. Now consider this in a real world example of buying a mobile phone. We simply don't go and buy a mobile phone. What we do is we set a budget for ourselves. Then we start researching what things can we get in this budget. So when you are researching, you try to study about camera. What are the better camera features? Okay, what should be the minimum requirement for getting a good photo? You start researching about memory requirements, that nowadays with the amount of browsing that happens, what should be the minimum memory requirement for the phone that I'm going to buy, CPU requirements or processor requirements for my phone. So you try to understand some of these basic things and then decide which phone you want to buy. Okay. Similarly, if you want to buy your grocery items, for that also you do a little bit of research, which product is better, and then you go on and decide which company or which brand you should be opting for when buying grocery. So that's the same concept we use over here also. Before we meet with client, we try to understand that client by gathering knowledge about the industry and the client. So this will help us drive meaningful conversations with the client. Now, when we go with this information, we can maintain a dialogue with them. Okay, we'll be able to build good relationships or rapport with the client. Now, once you understand all these points, then we start discussing on the requirements. That what all requirements as a client I want to have in my software. For example, my software should give me an option wherein I can add all the different types of pizzas. Okay, along with adding different types of pizzas, I should be able to add an image so that users can see what type of pizza it will be. I should be able to add description. Okay, let me write it down. I should be able, for this every pizza that I am adding, I should be able to add an image plus a description for it, plus the price for it, so that users can see how does a pizza will look like when it is prepared, what are different ingredients, what's the price, and they can accordingly make a choice of which pizza they want. Then they should be able to add to cart, add the address, and then make payment. We will not worry about applying discounts at this point in time. For building a basic application, at least my application should be doing these things. Okay, now once the payment is done, I will confirm the order. Once the order is confirmed, then you worry about delivering the order. Okay, so as a business analyst, that will come into the second stage. Okay, wherein we try to understand with client on what their business model is going to be, that they are trying to sell pizza. How are they trying to sell pizza? What are the different features they want to have in their application? Now if you look at these features, none of it are technical in nature. None of it can tell you what code you should be writing, and that's what basically a client is looking for in my application, that they want to talk to someone to whom they can explain the application in simple English words or whatever language they're having conversations in. Now, for me as business analyst, these features alone don't make sense, because if I tell to my development team or programmer or developer that, hey, I want an application that should have these features, they can build something on their own. Okay, they can build something on their own, and this something may not be what client wants. So what we do is we then have more rounds of discussion uh, with the client to discuss on how the application should look like. For example, these 3 points. If I just take these 3 points as example, do I want, or do I want to create an application which will look like this? So for example, let's say this is the image of the product. This is the description. Okay. And let's say I'll add one more point for the price. So whatever points I gather, they don't clearly specify whether I want something like this, or whether I want whether I want something like this. That image should be here. Next to image, we should have description, and then we should have price. Okay. Or it does not even say whether we want to have an application like this, or whether it should be like this. That description should come below, and price should come at the top. Okay. Now, with the same amount of information that is available, we can design our applications in different way. So as a business analyst, that is where our responsibility comes in. That number one, what are the different ways in which we can possibly design this solution? And number two, what are the different details that we require? For example, if I am saying I can upload image, from where can the user upload image? From their desktop, from some cloud place? Where? Who is allowed to add description? Can anyone log into the application and add description? Probably no. Only someone from the restaurant staff should be able to log in and add the description. Then who can add or update the price? So we naturally get these questions. So when we ask these questions to the client, our requirements become much more detailed. Like, who can add image, who can add description, who can update price in the application itself. So now I know that when they say, suppose they say that restaurant staff manager should be able to update all these details. A regular staff should not be able to update these details. Now, I know when I'm creating an application, in that application, I can ask the user whether you are logging in as customer or whether you are logging in as manager. If you are logging in as manager, you will have different access. Okay. If you are logging in as regular user, you can only view these details. But if you are a manager, you can view these details and you can edit or update these details as well. Okay. And then eventually, once I start my conversation, get some basic feature details, then add more details like we just discussed, who is going to update, what will be the design. So we add more details around it. When we have gotten more details, that is when we start writing these in the form of a document. Okay. Any questions so far? Okay. I'll take the silence as no questions. Now, when we have this level of detail, that is when we start documenting requirements. Okay, and once our requirements are documented, we kind of review it with customer for one final time. That did we write down what we have discussed so far? Now, these detailed requirements is what will help my programmers or developers start writing down their code. So when the developers or programmers know that this is how the application should look like, plus who is going to update what in the application, so they can control their code on the basis of access. So they can check the access level details for the user who has signed in. Based on the access level details, they can then decide to control who will whether someone who has logged in, whether they will be able to edit or update, or whether they are going to view it only. Okay. Okay. So these these eventually, once we have this once we have multiple rounds of discussion, we get to a stage of detailed requirements. Okay. These detailed requirements are documented and reviewed. Okay. So once a client also agrees that I kind of agree with what you have mentioned in the document, so let's go ahead with it. So when the client says all good, so we hand it over to our design team or to our technical team so that they can get started with the coding activity. So usually they do not directly start with coding. They will start with a high level design first and then jump on to coding. After coding testing and all those things will happen, which throughout the course we will understand what an SDLC or a software development life cycle is, how a software is developed, what are the different phases that are involved in software development. Okay. Now, based on this example that we studied, we can actually pick up the roles and responsibilities that the business analyst is actually performing. Okay. So for example, first one, you have to conduct lot of meetings with clients. Okay. Not just client alone, but it could be your internal team members as well. Okay, it's not just client, it will be your team members also, like developer, tester. Now, when we are meeting with clients, obviously, like I said, we don't simply go with blank faces or we don't go unprepared when meeting with client. We usually try to make our meetings as much productive as possible. That is where the experience comes. As a fresher, you may go unprepared and then client will ask you something, you may not have an answer, you will go back to get the answer, then again come back. meet with client, provide them the answer. They may ask for some more thing. So this back and forth keeps happening. Okay, it's not that as a fresher you are not aware of how things are being done, but due to lack of experience, a lot of back and forth happens. Okay, this back and forth results in increased time, whereas as an experienced candidate, if I go prepared to the meeting, there will be lesser back and forth. When there is lesser back and forth, you can do your work in lesser amount of time. So when we are meeting with clients, we ensure that we take knowledge on industry plus clients so that we can make our meetings more meaningful, more conversational, and much more impactful or productive as well. Okay. So once start we when meet with clients, we start gathering requirements. Okay, or you can say we start gathering features. Then what we do is whatever features we have, we try to add details around the features. These details will make convert my features into requirements and then document these requirements. Why are we doing this documentation? So that everyone is on same page. Okay, similar to see why we are recording this session. This is a 1 hour session. You may understand few things when you are in the session, but chances are maybe after 1 hour or 2 hour, if I ask you something, you may forget things. Okay, that's how the human brain is working. If we don't revise, if we don't remember or recollect things, the amount of information that we store tends to decrease. Okay, so that's why we try to write down things or we try to record things, so that whenever we feel that we need to recollect or remember something, we can look at our notes or we can look at these recordings. So in the technical world or in the IT world, that is why we are documenting, so that we don't forget or miss anything that client wants. If client is saying that I want 5 features, we are writing down to ensure that we are covering all 5 features. Okay, as of now, I may remember these are the 5 features, but maybe after 1 or 2 day, I will forget. Second thing is to avoid any disputes or arguments. Okay, suppose if I had a discussion with client on these 5 features, I documented it and we are done. Now, when we are delivering software at the end and client is looking at the software, at that time they are complaining that, hey, this software that you have given to me, this is not as per my expectations. Okay, and why it is not as per your expectations? They will say that because this software does not have an option to apply discounts. Okay, your entire software, I did not see an option to apply discounts. So whereas I want my customers to be able to apply discounts also. So when we have everything documented, instead of trying to argue with client, see eventually client is paying us for creating the software. If there is no client, how are we going to get money? So instead of arguing with client like, no, you did not may mention like this or you did not say like this, what we do is we go back to our document. Okay, what is it that we have documented? And remember what we said, once we create a document, we we actually get it reviewed and so we get our documents reviewed with the client itself. Now in my document that was reviewed by client, I see only these 5 features. So I can go back to client, I can share this document and say that, I'm not able to locate discounts feature in the document that was reviewed and signed off by you. Okay. So when I present the document, instead of fighting or arguing, now my client will also understand that maybe they missed it. Okay. So now we can update the document and start working on it as a fresh, that there is a new feature that is needed. But in case if it is already there in the document and I missed it, then what happens? We'll say sorry and then start working on it immediately. Okay. Because we are missing it on our side. So when we are missing it on our side, we have to ensure that we do everything possible to build that feature. Okay. Now these are some of the high level roles and responsibilities that you as business analysts will be mainly focusing on. There will be, when we go through this training program, we will understand some more detailed roles and responsibilities, that other than these, also these you can call it out as major responsibilities, where you will be spending bulk of your time as business analyst. But along with it, there are other roles and responsibilities as well, like preparing release notes, how do we conduct meetings, how do we ensure that we make our meetings more productive. We'll try to understand from further example as well, how do we gather from features to detailed requirements. Okay. So we'll move on to our last topic for the day, that is the impact of AI on what or how we are doing our day-to-day work as a business analyst. But before we move on to that, any questions so far? Okay, I see few things in the chat box. Okay, so Divya, to answer your question, uh, first thing that I want to clarify is that as a business analyst, or this entire training program focuses on business analyst with respect to the IT domain. Okay, so whatever our interactions will be with clients, these are specific to IT domain. Now, in other domains, whether it is healthcare or whether it is finance, a business analyst can pretty much work as work into analyzing how the business operations are being currently performed. Can we find out processes or ways to adopt which can improve my efficiency? For example, let's say if I am procuring something. Suppose if I have to replace computers in my office, and for currently replacing computers, I need to file a proof that the current computers are not working. Then someone will come and investigate and review. Then they will provide their approval. Then manager will provide their approval. There is no IT involved in it as such, but just my business. In my business, I have set these rules. So these business analysts could identify opportunities for process improvement within my organization, or how I am dealing with my customers without worrying about the software part. Okay. Now our course will be focusing on what the business analyst will be doing in terms of the IT industry. That is, what are the key features needed for you to build a software, and what will be your contribution as business analyst in building up that software. Okay. So right from the time, like how are you going to interact with client or meet with clients, what all things you need to do before you go and meet with any of the clients to make sure your meetings are much more productive. Okay, how do you initiate discussions to gather the features or the high level requirements or the business goals, you can say, with the client. Once you have those features, what are the different techniques we have available to add more details around those features. Once we have those details, then we will look at few templates that we can use to document these details. Now, once we have these details documented, we review it one final time with the client. Okay. So once we have it reviewed with the client, now we all are on same page. We then pass on this document to our development team so that now they can get started with coding. Now, how the artificial intelligence could actually impact the way you work. Now, a lot of time people think that artificial intelligence is going to take away a lot of jobs. Okay, that's the general perception that people may have, that artificial intelligence, because we are making our systems much more intelligent by feeding in data to them, so these systems will eventually start doing what humans are doing currently. Okay, but understand one thing, that as of now, at least the artificial intelligence use cases that we have that are currently being used by masses. Okay, now there are a lot of prototypes being worked together, but the current use cases that we have which are being used by masses, that is only to help us do our job effectively. Okay, for example, will before jumping onto it in detail, understand for example photos. So earlier what used to happen is, you would use your camera, click photos, and then if you had to find a photo, there was no way for us to find or search for photos. What would happen is, we would scroll through the entire library to reach to the photo which we want to see. That was the thing that we had earlier. Now what happens is, with this artificial intelligence in place, now if you open your Google Photos or similar application on other operating devices, you can see that these photos are being put into different categories. Okay, now the applications are able to put photos or bundle photos together on the basis of people. They can also bundle photos on the basis of a different category they belong to. For example, they can create a category for animals, humans, books, bills, ID cards, or identification cards. So they can categorize photos into different blocks. Now, for me as a user, it has become much more easier. Now I know when my photos are being categorized as in the form, I can simply go and browse over there. Okay, also I can, along with this categorization, now my searching has become relatively easier. Now in fact, a lot of applications are allowing you to put a name, like I want to search for birthday photos. So it will show you all the photos which it finds relatable or relevant with respect to the word birthday. So my searching has become easier. Does that mean that AI is doing something extraordinary? Yes, it is making me search through or browse through my photos easily, relatively easily. I don't have to maybe spend 5 minutes searching for a video. Maybe within a minute or within few seconds, I can identify whether some photo is available on my phone or not. Okay. Similarly, some of the artificial intelligence tools that we utilize in our day-to-day basis, or that can be used, is usually the conversational AIs, things like Chat, GPT, or Gemini, or Bard. Okay, so as of now, a lot of these conversational tools, if you ask them any question, because the amount of data they have, chances are that they can, at least what the owners say, that they'll be able to give you answers for around 85 to 90% times. Okay, because of the data they have. So if you are able to find 90% of your answers by using these tools, why not use these tools? Okay, now some of the people claim that these tools are actually can do your job as well, but for me that is not the case. At least as of now, I don't see Chat GPT going out to my client and setting up meetings and running the discussions. Okay, understand the difference. Basically, I am going to my client, I am running those conversations, I am getting the details. Once I have got the details, if I have some doubt, if I need some clarification, if I need to study about a topic, then I can make use of Chat GPT. Chat GPT does not know who my clients are, how are they working, or what type of projects we are currently running into. Okay, so that's the basic difference. How are you going to get these get these tools to talk to clients? Maybe in some near future, maybe 5 years down the line or 10 years down the line, maybe these tools will become even way more smarter, that they will start interacting with people as well. But until then, it is only the humans that are doing this job. Now what you can certainly use Chat GPT and other AI tools for is actually what I call is for documentations. Okay, suppose you want to write a statement like wants client want features like uploading image, adding description, and adding price. Okay, suppose I have written a high level feature like this, that this is what client wants. Now I want to find alternatives to this. For some reason, this simple statement does not look attractive to me. Now I can certainly use Chat GPT or other AI tools to find a better way of writing this. I can tell them that, hey, take this statement as input and give me an alternative way. Okay, or another way of representing this statement. Now you will be surprised or amazed that this one line statement could be converted into one paragraph by these AI tools. Now that could definitely help me if I am running short on content, that I can definitely use these AI tools to increase my content. Okay, or to make people believe that I am very good in documenting things. Okay, now that is one thing where we should not hesitate, and even I recommend that you should not hesitate in using the tool for documentation, for documenting some of these steps. So for example, for people who are good in communicating with others but who lack the documentation skills, who don't know like whether this statement will make sense or whether something else should be put in, they can certainly take help or use of these AI tools to find alternatives of writing down the same statement. Now you can use some other websites or tools as well, but the reason why AI is working is because they are understanding or they are reading through the keywords, and they ensure that all the keywords are present in the new statement that they are going to propose. Okay, so that way, as a business analyst, some of my tasks related to documentation, suppose if I am spending 1 hour every day on documentation, I can make use of chat gpt. I can give chat gpt some of the basic inputs and get a good paragraph wise or a good statement back as output from chat gpt, which I can then use it in my documents. Now one thing that you have to be extremely careful is, whenever you are using any of the external tools which are not allowed by the organization you are working for, ensure that you do not share any personal details over it. Okay, again, these tools rely on the data that you give as input. So if you give any of the organization specific personal data, client specific personal data, okay, or even for yourself as well, it will be considered as input for the tool to train it. So we don't want to get into the hassles of legal terms related to data breach. Okay, we don't want to be part of the data breach. So when I am saying, see, client want features like uploading all this, I'm kind of generalizing this statement. Now consider this statement with, I am creating a requirement document for Domino's. Okay, and during our discussion, Domino's mentioned that they want features like this. Now what I am doing is, I have already logged into these AI tools. Along with it, I am also disclosing who my client is. So chat GPT or other AI tools can know that this person is working with Domino's. And based on the question that is coming in, maybe he or she is trying to create a software for the Domino's. Okay, so we don't want to reveal those personal details. So there's very thin line. Either we do all things on our own. If we want to take help from any of the AI tools, we can, certainly, there's no denying that we should not use AI tools, but ensure that you are not sharing any personal details with respect to client, with respect to organization you are part of, or with respect to yourself. You can give generic or generalized statements so that you can conceal the personal informations. Okay, now use chat gpt for for better documentations. Okay, don't use or don't think that chat gpt can get requirements for you. You can use chat gpt gemini for learning any topics as well. Now this document that we have, usually we will, during our training program, we will go through some of the templates like business requirement document, functional requirement document, use cases, what are these documents, when are they created, what are they used for, okay, and what's the difference between all of them throughout our training program, so that we understand what different level of documents are available to us as business analysts, and when these documents should be created by us. Okay, and what is the different level of information that goes in. But for demo purposes, let's just say that we create one document, and that one document will have all the requirements, actually detailed requirements in it. So detail means, what will be my design, how am I, what will be the different steps that I am going to follow. For example, these are the different steps that I am going to follow before placing my order. Okay. So when we are writing down requirements, we ensure that one, they are detailed. Two, that we list down all the steps involved in the correct order. Okay. Any questions?
Yeah, Rahul, are there any kinds of BAs like functional, technical, techno-functional BAs in the market?
Now, Anudeep, these all are terms specific to organization. Okay, suppose you are someone who comes with a development background, who has very good or very sound technical knowledge. Now, let's say for 4 years or 5 years, you worked as Java developer for one particular client. For the same client, because you have spent nearly 5 years, you have gained good business knowledge as well. So if you continuously work in one single domain for 5 years, 6 years, you will naturally gain some business knowledge or domain knowledge as well. Then organizations could actually decide to make you a techno functional BA. But to be honest, if you look at any of the jobs that are available or any of the interviews that happen, no one will ask you whether you are going to work as functional BA or techno functional BA. Now, functional BA usually is what another term that we call for what we will be going through in this training program. That is, understand the domain, get the requirements. Now, it may be very easier to say understand domain, get the requirements, but there are different steps involved in between as well. So, functional is one who is worried about only the domain. Techno functional is someone who understands the domain plus the technical application or the programming language that is involved behind creating the application. But again, these are organization specific techno functional role. No one could hire someone from outside saying that, this person knows the technology, the domain, the business, everything well. It depends on the amount of time you spend in the organization, and that too nowadays people are again keeping these two things separate. That someone who has technical background, they should be separate, and people with domain expertise, they should be separate.
Okay, okay. Got it, Rahul.
So Jagdeshwari, you wanted to recap. Now I think I pretty much covered all of it and recapped few things in between. Preeti, are you clear now about the documents part? You mentioned explain the last point one more time about documents. Are you clear, or do you have any specific question with respect to documents? Okay, or does anyone else has any question?
Yeah, Rahul, regarding resume preparation, in that we need to specify the projects we have worked on now. So in those things, how will you help us? Like, will you suggest any projects or what? How will you help us?
Okay. So usually I recommend everyone that based on your current experience, you should be writing down the projects. So suppose where currently you are working in an IT industry for a banking client, but you are working as a QA, or let's say you are working as a developer for that particular client. Then you should explain the project, you should know the project, but what we will do is we will be adding roles and responsibilities of a BA for that same project. Now, why we are doing that is, see, you have been looking at the same client or at the same software for last 1 year, 2 year, 3 year. So there is a very good chance that you can explain that particular software to the interviewer. Whatever project we will be doing in during our training program, that will be for 1 month only. Okay, and that will be a generic one, not something client specific. So there is a good chance that you may remember, you may forget. But for that 1 month duration, how are you going to say that I did this for 1 year or 2 years? Okay, some of the students we see that they are not able to explain the projects that were done in the classes. So for the projects that you are currently doing in your organization, if you are in IT industry, if you are in non IT, then you must be working for some business, some company, and that company must be using some type of software. So usually I recommend people who are from non IT to get access to the software that your organization currently uses. Go through that software, try to understand what that software is doing, similar to like how we use Amazon, Flipkart, or other e-commerce applications. Try to get yourself familiar with the software. You don't have to memorize everything. Within that software also, you can just focus on the part which you are currently using. Then we will mention that in the project description, and I will give you the roles and responsibilities of a business analyst that you can mention together. So during interview, if anyone is asking you questions related to business analyst, you are able to answer. If anyone is asking questions about project, like what was the name of the client, what does client do, okay, how are you gathering requirements or meeting requirements with the client, you can provide those details as well. Okay.
Yeah,
Now
Rahul. Yeah, good.
so for your questions, yes, every session, including the demos that we are going through, every upcoming session will also be recorded, and these recordings will be shared with all the students who are actually part of the training program. I think there is some 6 months window, so you will have access to these recordings for 6 months. Plus, whatever notes I'll be taking during the class, these notes will be uploaded to Google Classroom, wherein you can access the notes, the templates that I am referring to. For example, interview questions, BRD, FRD, different types of document templates that I'll be sharing with you. So all those will be uploaded in Google Classroom from where you can access it. Okay. Any other questions, guys?
Yeah, Rahul, regarding mock interviews, how many mock interviews will be conducted and uh,
Yes. So to provide more information on that, what happens, Anudeep, is I have a list of questions that I have put into different categories, like basic questions, Scrum related questions, some of the relatively advanced questions, scenario based questions. So what I usually do is I share that questionnaire with the students. Now, once you get those questions, you can either add your answers against the question and share it back with me. Okay. In our next class, we will go through every question by question, go through your answers and how you can actually provide better answers. Now, not everyone will write down answers and submit the questions back. So, what may happen is I will then directly check with people on the call itself. And depending on the students, like if they want to go through the questions again, we can repeat this again. There is no thing like, I'll do it only once, and once it is done, then you have lost the chance. Nothing like that. We will have a discussion during the class itself on how you can improve your answers. And if you feel like you want another round of uh, question answer session, so that it will boost your session, boost your confidence, then we can do one more round of it.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so Jagdeshwari asked, what's the salary expectations they can have for people in 2 to 4 years of experience range? So, Jagdeshwari, usually in the IT industry, at least as of now, and it could change, they try to provide people in the salary range of experience into 2 to 2.5 years. So let's say you have 3 years of experience. So 3 into, if I take the highest number 2.5, that will come out to be 7.5. So that should be your starting package. Okay, now usually for people in the smaller experience range like 2 to 4 or 5 years, because they are not going to ask for 20 lakh or 25 lakh package. So organizations are little bit open in negotiations as well. Okay, now the thing is, when you move up the ladder to 25 plus package range, 25 lakh plus, that is where some of the negotiations may become slightly difficult. I'll not say completely difficult, but slightly difficult. But in when you are working as relatively new, less than 5 years of experience, then you can expect anything between 7 to 10 lakhs. Now there could be certain exceptions as well, where certain organizations, they pay very well. Okay, so what about packages in USA? I have 6 years of experience in financial services or financial domain. So, Sneha, I think if you are there on H1B, there will be a limit set up by the respective states in USA. So, for example, some of the IT organizations in 5 to 6 years of experience range, or 7 years also, they cannot offer anything less than, let's say, 65,000, $70,000 per annum. Okay, now these could vary from state to state, not saying that this is the minimum bar that you will get, but every state ensures that the person who is coming on H1 visa, H1B visa, they get that minimum salary at least, so no one can offer you below that. I think for 6 years experience range, you should you can expect anywhere between 65 to 85,000 dollars per annum. Why I'm giving you a range? Because there will be some companies like Walmart, or Citibank, who can offer you nice compensations.
Yeah, Rahul, one more thing, like we got to know that somebody from the Harsha Trainings from earlier batch, he got 16 LPA. Can you please tell me about him, like from what background he has come and how he got that much package?
Yes. So actually, there were two factors into it. So one about the background before getting into those two factors. One was he's already from the IT industry. He was working as a developer on mainframe based systems. So he had a good hold. So anyone who is from IT industry, obviously they will have advantage. They know the how the industry works. They know processes a little better, but and also they have access to software development because they have been developing software. So same thing. So during interviews, we suggested that whatever work you are doing, just portray that, say, use the same project, but instead of telling that you are working as a developer, say that you are working as a business analyst. Now, for getting to that higher package, one, it was attributed to his previous salary as well. So in the current organization, he was already earning close to uh, 10.5 lakhs. Okay. So when your current package itself is high, you can negotiate up to 50-60% with the organization. See, new organization, they may be reluctant to give you 100% hike, but you can negotiate up to 50-60% from your current package. But in case if your current package is only 6 lakhs, assume instead of 10 lakhs it is 6 lakhs, then you cannot expect them to give you 200% hike unless you have an offer, you have a counter offer. So he was with development background from the IT industry and already also had a good basic package. But yeah, if you perform well in interviews, good enough in interviews, you can easily negotiate up to 50% hike.
Yeah, Rahul, one more thing, like generally for BA, how many rounds of interviews will be there?
For most of the service based companies, like whether it is TCS, Accenture, or on the similar lines like mid scale companies like L&T, Infotech, or Birlasoft, those type of companies, it should be three. So one would be, first round would be your technical discussions, second round would be with any of your managerial discussions, so which will be little bit of technical, that should not be more technical, and more of situational questions. And then the last one will be your HR discussions.
Okay, okay.
So Saujanya is asking, if we explain we are working as BA, how can we manage the designations that come on payslip? So Saujanya, if your designation on paper is something else, so first thing that I could suggest is if you could talk to organization to to see if they can give you a different designation. Second thing is, designation and roles and responsibilities are two different things. Okay. My designation could be team lead. Okay. So on paper, my company can write he's a team lead, or on designation wise, uh, on paper my designation could be manager, but being a manager does not tell what my roles and responsibilities will be, whether I'm managing a Java team, whether I'm managing BAs, whether I'm managing QA team, or what type of manager I am. Okay. So whatever designation comes on paper does not usually represent what roles and responsibilities you are performing. Okay. So on paper, they can write analyst, senior analyst, but that does not mean whether as an analyst you are doing developer role or a QA role. So if we are able to, during interviews, if we are able to justify or provide answers to the questions being asked, okay, on paper designation becomes little irrelevant unless it's a completely different field altogether. Like for example, the experience says you were working as customer support executive in our organization. Now, if you go and tell that as a customer support representative, I was working as a business analyst, then it may be difficult. Okay, so Ankit is asking, for the BA, what are the technical questions? Now, technical questions for a business analyst would be related to what work you are doing. For example, what are the different prioritization techniques, or how can you utilize Moscow for requirement prioritizations? what different techniques are available for requirement elicitation, or under what scenario are you going to use which technique, when do you prepare BRD or when do you prepare FRD, or what's the difference between the two, what is requirement modeling. So basically all the activities that you do as a business analyst, that will be technical questions for us. Technical questions for BA will not be write down a Python code unless you are applying for a job which explicitly calls out that I am looking for experience. The JD or the job description says that I am looking for experience in Python or SQL or Power BI. If you are applying for these type of jobs, then they can ask you some coding related questions as well. But otherwise, technical questions for BA is restricted to the activities that a BA perform. Requirement gathering, elicitation, requirement modeling, requirement prioritization, sorting, okay, different types of documentations. Okay, any other questions, guys? Okay, if there are, okay, I see, okay, no questions. Okay. So if there are no other questions, guys, we'll conclude our third and final demo for the day. I hope if you guys have any questions, you can reach out to us from Harsha Trainings, ask your questions. And if you are all satisfied, all good with the programs, if you feel that you are in agreement with what will be covered as part of training programs, then do consider enrolling in it. With that, thank you everyone. We'll connect later.